Hey, very good morning and good evening, everyone. Welcome back. So last session, we were discussing about the Linux commands. Let's continue the same thing. So for that, every day I'm deleting a machine. So let me launch a new machine. So just to have a quick recap on what is the commands that we were discussing about. Earlier, we were talking about how do you organize your files. Okay. And yesterday, we were talking about more on how do you see the content of the file. Why are we talking about content of the file in the server is the server is meant to run certain thing, and while running you will need to update certain files, by the way, especially the configuration files. Okay. uh, Especially the configuration files, the files which is okay related to the application that you are running. Some other way we might need to update the configuration, and that is the reason, so we are looking towards looking at the content of the file or modifying the file in different ways. And after that, we also seen, how do you generally hit a websites, like, how do you browse from the command line, and as well as how do you, extract certain files which got downloaded. Okay. So this is what is we have discussed, and let's move on further. So the IP. Yeah. And also we talked about a pipe symbol. Pipe symbol is about sending the first command output to the second command. And pretty rare cases that you will also see that, uh, pretty rare cases you will also see that, so the pipe symbol will fail and there is a command to take the help for that. So which is exams. This is what we discussed in last session. All right. So let's move on with the next concept. I hope there are no questions on here so far. Anything before starting from anyone? Okay, cool. So the next is we will talk about something called as a process management. When you log into a server is meant to run some services, right? Server is meant to run some services. And when I run the service, it's a process in the operating system. Even in your Windows, you have something called as control panel where you will try to see the list of programs that is running. Okay. For an example, if I am Mac OS, I think some monitor is there, activity monitor, something is there. So it will tell me, so what all the things process which are running here. So you can see this, these are all the different process which are running, right? And Windows also show you the same thing. So the different process running. Now for me, it is my responsibility to check whether my processes are running or not. For an example, let's say, okay, whether the process is running or not, I will be checking that particular one. And to check that, so you have a command which is available, which is ps command. So ps command is going to tell you the process that is running. So it is telling that there is a bash process running, there's a ps process running. So ps is nothing but just now I ran, that also has a process it is showing. But whereas the other process is the bash, right? Now, if you look at the bash, it is actually having one ID, which is called as process ID. Every process name will have an ID. I think in Windows, I'm not sure. I'm not a great expert of Windows, but I don't think so. Windows have a process ID. But Linux is going to have every process will be associated to one ID, which is called as process ID. The PS command will show you the list of running process. But however, to view all the process in the system, so then it is showing only the process which is related to this session. Linux is a multi-user, multi-tenant operating system. Okay, so that means I can put a statement: Linux is a multi-user, multi-session OS. Okay, multi-user, multi-session. But whereas in Windows, it is a uh, multi-user, single session operating system. Windows is a multi-user operating system, but at the same time, it is a single session. That means one user will have only one session in Windows because it's a graphical, right? So your desktop can be only one only, correct? You can't have two desktops. That's why there's a limitation on the session perspective. So Linux is a multi-user and multi-session operating system. So here, this process which is showing, which is very limited to this particular session. Okay, to view all the process in the system, so then there is an option you have to use is ps-e. So it is showing you all the process which is running and their process IDs. But however, for a bit more detailed information, so you will also give ps-ef or -f. You can use combined as well. So ps-e-f. So you will see that little bit more columns here. Okay, and some of the very important columns here is who is the user which is running. Previously, it is not showing which user it is running, and what is the process ID. Anyhow, previously it is showing, and what is the parent of that particular process. Okay, it shows the PPID. This is a very important information from this particular one. There are others as well. That's okay, but ps-ef 99% of the time. So what do you look here is so the process. Who is the owner? I mean, owns that particular process, and what is the process ID, and what is its parent, by the way. And if you look at the process hierarchy, okay, you take any process. For an example, I executed a ps-ef command. Now it created one process 1415. 1415 is having a parent. Okay, so every process will have a parent. So that means this is being triggered by some other process. And you can go to the 1359. 1359 will have a 13 another guy. It is 1358. 1358 if I go in, it is 1343. And 1343 if I go in, it is 1259. And 1259, it ended up with 1. Okay, that means process ID 1 and 2 are the core system process. Okay, every process end up with either the parent as 1 or 2. Okay, any process you take it up. So you look at the parent chain, it ends up with either 1 or 2. The process ending with a 1 or manageable process manageable process by okay, so OS user, I can put like OS user. Okay, either it can be a normal user or admin user, doesn't matter. So the any process which is ending with 1, okay, the all the parent, if you connect all the dots, so if it is okay reaching to 1, so then it can be manageable by OS normal user or admin user. So OS user, so it can be a admin user or normal user. Okay, but however, the process ending with 2, okay, or that are system level, the core of the operating system, and cannot be managed by even admin user. Okay, so in Linux OS, the admin user is called as a root user, so that's where they're telling root, by the way. So yeah, so even by admin user also, you will not be able to manage the process. So now, for example, here you have So this process you will not manage. It's a very core of the operating system. Even in Windows also, it is the same possible thing. So some of the process you try to end, I mean, some of the process generally maybe like a Chrome or something, you can end it. But try to go to there are some other process which are there, maybe something like win it will tell. Try to end the process. You will not be able to end the process. Okay. So that is why you need to understand that. Okay. So there are very core OS operating systems, operating system process. You will not be able to manage them, but those are being categorized with the parent too. But whereas a user managed process will come under one. You take any process, it ends with one. You can manage. Now, when I'm talking about manage, what do you manage, by the way? Right? So probably I need to stop the process, end the process, and I want to start it again, let's say, for whatever the reason it is. I need to stop the process and or end the process, and I wanted to start the process again later. Okay, this is my admin activity. Let's say, okay, the process is running. I wanted to end the process, do some modifications by the way, and again start the process. In that particular criteria, okay, so if you keep aside the requirement perspective, but how do you end the process in the operating system? So you know how to list the process with a PS command. There are alternative commands also. There's a top command. Okay, so there are some third-party tools also you can install. But yeah, the widely used non-interactive command again is PS command. Now PS-ef is the most used command. Now if it is generating too much output, so probably you can give pipe grep, something like SSH. Now it will narrow down to certain search also. So you will not see everything also. Okay, like this you can do. Whatever the process you wanted to manage, you can give whether the process is running or not by giving ps-ef pipe for that particular process name. If it is not showing, that means the process is not running. If it is a Java process, then I'll give ps-ef Java. If it's a Python process, ps-ef Python I'll give. So that I'll come to know whether the process is running or not running. Okay. Now, how do I manage this process? So how do I end the process? So that's where the kill command come into picture. So there is a kill command that comes into picture. I will take another tab here, connecting to the same server. Okay, fine. So just wanted to demonstrate this. Now there is a kill, you'll find out a process ID and you kill that particular process. For an example, you wanted to, so take some process, which is some sleep command. Sleep command, if I give 2, it will just, run the things for 2 seconds. It will not run anything. It just simulate a run that I'm running something. Pause. Okay, just sleeping. Okay, it is just a live process, but it is sleeping, like not doing anything, right? Sleep means you're not doing anything. The same idea. Now let's say sleep 2 means 2 seconds it will sleep. And to sleep 200 means 200 seconds it will sleep. So that means I can, for 200 seconds it will run. I'll go back here and check like ps-ef pipe for sleep. Now what we're telling is, okay, if you want to kill the process, so then kill 1, 2, 3, 4 is what I'm telling. That process ID. Okay. Now here sleep 200 process ID is 1489. So now I'll go and give kill 1489, enter. Then you go to the other terminal. You can see this got terminated, it is telling. So someone terminated that process. Okay, so it didn't run, right? So it got terminated. Sometimes you try to terminate a process, but it won't do. Okay, in such cases, what you can do is, okay, you can go for a forceful kill. And when you go for a forceful kill, you have to be very conscious that why are you doing a forceful kill? Okay, that is very important. All right. So that is how you have to make sure that when you're actually killing a process. Now, for example, there are cases you can't actually go for a forceful kill. For an example, there is a database service, let's say. If you try to stop a service, you send a normal kill command, okay, then a signal will be sent to the process. Hey boss, you've been asked to stop, by the way. Okay, then it acknowledges that particular one and starts coming out, like stops trying to stop the process. But the database, by the way, so it has to make sure that it has done all the uh, that it has done all the necessary actions. That means like a lot of transactional information which is there, by the way, it has to commit that information and commit out. Okay. So that's where, the sleep process, when you try to kill, it may immediately come out. But let's say just try to simulate that the same thing. Like let's say you're running the Oracle database, try to simulate that. And that will take certain few minutes, by the way, depends on the systems also. Okay, and the state also is very important. So it may take, like let's say Oracle database. Okay, so shutdown takes time. Why? Just as an example, if you read from the GPT information, okay, so it may take time, but because it needs to perform a clean procedure. So why it need to take is basically large amount of uncommitted transactions is there. Any database, by the way, they will not directly commit every transaction to the a disk, by the way. Okay, what they're going to do is they're going to keep it in a memory and as batches, by the way. So they are going to write it into the disk, by the way. So there is something called as the Hall process, the database, something is there. Okay, if you look into the internals, will be a okay. So this is the area that where it actually use, by the way, which is uh, a Hall concept is there. So which it is going to be a temporary thing it will maintain, and finally it will write into the disk file. So that means whenever you try to stop a database, okay, it has to get onto the uh, state where everything is saved properly, and then it will come out. So usually it will take a couple of minutes. It depends upon the database size and the state of the database and things like that. It will take little time. Okay, so that during that time, you're not supposed to kill the process forcefully. So that's where I'm telling how to consciously do the things. Okay, so that's where kill-9 is the process you forcefully kill means there is a loss in the data. Okay, you're intentionally getting there. So that's where some scenarios. So very extreme cases, probably you know that you're doing it, which is the last thing you do, by the way. Don't try to go for forceful, but you have a forceful option. So for an example, if I go here, is bash/tmp no kill.sh, something like that. Okay. So I'm just trying to simulate that scenario with some script. It's okay. So ps-ef 5 grepper sleep. Okay. So sleep 350 is there. So kill 1511. So previously it got terminated, right? But if you go back here, it is not there. No message is there. Now ps-ef 5 grepper sleep. Okay. It is still there. The same process. 1511 is there. 1511 is there. Now I'll go and kill. Okay. So it's not happening. And how many times if I go for sleep, it is still there. So that means this process is actively trying to do something to come out, or else sometimes what happens is the process may uh, go to a zombie state. Okay, that means it lost the control. Okay, it is maybe a hung process. Okay, sometimes it get into a lost control. Okay, by the way, by the operating system, pretty rare. Like going out of control is pretty rare, but so sometimes a process can hung also. Okay, so during that time, so what do you do is, I think in desktop you fairly, so get into scenario of hanging, right? So on the server side also it happens certain times. Okay, there may be because of the memory leak from the application. Okay, for some reasons like applications will go for hung state, and during that extreme times, you can go for -9 option and you the process. You go for sleep. That process is not there. It's gone. So here also it is telling it is killed, which is okay. All right. So that's how we are going to manage the process. So just to summarize, PS is a command which is going to help you with listing the process, and whereas a kill command is a one which is going to help you with organizing That means like, so stopping the process. Okay. Does it make sense? Any questions?
Hey Raghu, so you made the function sleep 350, uh, which could not be killed, right? Like you created that, right? The
Correct.
process. And how
Yes.
how did you do it? Sorry, I missed that part.
You can still know how do you do that? Doesn't really matter to you. If you're interested,
Oh, okay.
you can read about it. So the topic will be trap a process. Trap a process, Linux. I simulated it.
Hmm, okay.
Yeah.
And you said multi-user, multi-session is Linux, right?
Yeah.
So it means a single user can have multiple sessions, right?
Yeah, just now we had done, right? So here is one session,
Yes. Yeah,
another session.
and there was another session. Okay, if I'm doing some job in one session and kill the process in another session, it will be killed from all the sessions,
Correct.
right? Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
Anyone? Any other questions? Okay. The next is privilege escalation with sudo. Okay. Now, if there is some process that I am trying to kill, which belongs to other user, for an example, I'll try to simulate it. Don't worry, I'll come to know about what I'm doing here. So now I am another user, which is admin user, let's say, or maybe so which is an application user, which is like let's say Java. I'm trying to run some process as a Java. Okay. Now it is a other user. So ps-ef I prefer Java. So now I can see that there is a Java process, which is sleep process. I wanted to some process. Okay. It just sleep is an example for demonstration. Now I'm trying to kill the process. Ideally, you're a normal user. Okay. And will not be able to kill. Okay. Ideally, in your operating system, so the process will run by some user. User is mandatory to run a process. And to run a application, you require a user. And we still add the users for running the application. And that is where you're going to see some functional users, we call it up. Okay. The user is not a real user. It's a functional user. But whereas, okay, if assume like EC2 user as a Raghu, it's an interactive user. So that means it is a human being. But Java process like Java and all. So those will be non-interactive processes or non-interactive users. Okay. Java is an example. I think I've used some other one. That's okay. Users like Java is meant to run some process. Okay, those means like so there is no human being that SSH to that server by using Java. No. Okay. So, but anyhow, that user section I will talk about again later. But let's stick to the point. Now you try to manage the process which is ran by another user. For an example, okay, usually the applications ran by a separate user. Now you try to operate to kill it because it is your own process. You'll be able to do that. But if it is another user, he will not be able to do that. And that's where you need to gain the administrative privileges by the way in order to do that. And I think, some of you would have definitely been through this case, like, opening in Windows also opening command prompt as administrator. So I'm not sure how many of you went into this scenario. Okay, so usually any program, by the way, you can right click. I mean, I just took command as an example. Right click and do run as an administrator. So that means you're running as an administrator. So in order to do that, you should have a permission. Otherwise, what do you get? Access denied. Something. Okay. If you don't have the permission, you will be popped up or something with a permission denied access. Linux also the same thing. Okay. Now I should be having a privilege to do that action, by the way. If I don't have an privilege, then ideally what do I get is, okay, so here user is not allowed to execute, by the way. Okay, so that's how simply it will tell. Now what I'm going to do is, so I'll just go and give sudo kill 1663. So now the process of Java is gone. So that is not there. Oh, sorry, sleep. So you can see that sleep process is no more. So previously you have the process of sleep as 40,000, but that is gone because I used a prefix as sudo and I already have a privilege to the system. So that means assume when you join when you actually enter into a system, you should be already having a privileges, which is all pre-configured. So this is all the organization level things. IT is there in a company. There'll be IT infra, right? So that means like your user management, some teams will take care. So those guys will take care of. I mean, usually these machines will integrate with. I already mentioned that, so when you enter into a server or when you enter into an organization, you'll get a username and password. Now the same username, okay, you will use it for your email purpose. The same username, you will use it for your submitting your timesheet. The same username, you will use it for your downloading your payslip. And the same username, you will log into your server also. Now, once you log into the server, whether you are supposed to be performing that action or not, by the way, is also defined by the same system. It depends upon some groups you belong to and all. So you will gain the access, by the way. Okay. So these are all single sign-on concepts. Okay, so how it run, by the way. So if you are interested, the concept is single sign-on. Now, assume that you already have a single sign-on or the permission that you have, okay, and you're able to do the things. But if you are really interested how to give the permission to the user locally to this system, okay. So usually we'll go with a central sudo, okay. But let's say in real-time environment, sudo is centrally managed by IT teams. It is a mature company. Okay, I'll prefer to do that in a centralized way because of the auditing purpose. Who is having what access? Because if I give a individual user access, what is the problem? Now you leave the organization. Now let's say I have 10,000 servers. I have to go to the 10,000 machines and update your sudo permission, or I have to delete your user. Okay, and I have to yeah, I have to delete your user, and I have to so clean up all your sudo access as well. So that is even a burdening job. When you join, I had to go on many systems and do that. When you log out, okay, so you had to come out and do that. So it's a bit pain process. So that is where, okay, what do we do is we will try to maintain the things over central sudo. Okay, there's a concept of central sudo. Now, assume you're a EC2 user is a company account. You had access on the server, and also assume you also had the access to the system to perform the uh, to perform admin activity. Sudo activity. Okay. Sudo stands for super user do. That means do it as a super user. Like, in Windows, right click as administrator. So the same thing here. All right. So if you're really interested, I think that there is enough few videos around it. So you can do that. Okay. You can learn, I mean, you can understand that. But anyhow, it's going to be mostly a part of IT job. But I think you should have a fair idea. So try to start maintaining some notes kind of a thing. What you need to do sometime when you have some time free. So one concept I would suggest is SSO with Linux, okay, or Active Directory with Linux. The integration with Linux. Okay, how do you do that? Okay, so just try to watch some videos and how do you handle that? Or if you want to do a practice also, I think you can go for a LDAP part itself. So LDAP integration to Linux. Some free softwares are available on the LDAP. So because Active Directory is a bit a paid version and you'll not get it for free. So you can simply use a lightweight simulation also for the same thing. AD will have the LDAP also integrate LDAP as a part of it, but you can just simulate this by using with the LDAP itself. It's okay if you are interested whenever you have some time. So this is one topic I would suggest you because this is how the corporate runs the things, enterprise runs the things. All right. So the next is I think so. Just to summarize, by the way, so here root is an administrator user, and you want to perform the things as a root user. So then, what do I need to do here is what do I need to do is I need to I need to run the things as a root user. I need to do is just prefix the command with a sudo. If you have a permission, you will be able to do that. So now let's say for an example, sleep some process I'm running as a EC2 user, but I go as a Java process and Java user. So pipe grep for sleep. So then the EC2 user. And if I try to kill, or let's say sudo kill, anyhow kill will not happen. So sudo kill 1741 and enter. It is asking for some password. Anyhow, I don't have the password. I'm hitting enter, enter. Just enter. I don't have a password. Just entering. It will fail anyhow. So incorrect password it is telling. Let's say I have a proper password. And if I enter a proper password also for example, I'll just enter for Java. Some random thing I'm setting it up. Okay. So PS-EF I prefer sleep and kill 1741 and I'll go for a sudo kill and enter. It's asking for some password for double multi-factor authentication kind of a thing, you assume. It's just a second time it is asking for the password. Enter. So now you can see this, you're not in the sudoers file and you're trying to do something, that incident will be reported. So somewhere in the system, it logs that you're trying to do something, okay, which is not, you're not permitted. Okay. So usually such activities in the enterprise organization, so which will be monitored by a couple of tools, by the way. So this activity has been generated as this activity is a permissive activity. Okay, try to understand. Some activities can be permissive, some activities can be not permissive. Okay. Okay, some activities can be permissive and some cannot be. Okay, some is completely restricted. You are not supposed to do that. Okay, impermissible if you consider, right? So in that particular sense, okay, if you are permissive and still you are performing some activity, okay, the logs will be collected from the system and there is a SIEM. It goes to the security aspect of the things. So SIEM monitoring, okay. So if you look at the SIEM monitoring, so it's a critical cybersecurity process that collects and that collects, aggregates and analyze the logs from across your IT, and it will tell you that is there any mischievous activities are happening on the system, and it will get reported, by the way. Okay, so there's the SEM teams. Okay, SIEM monitoring, SIEM jobs. Okay, so usually you'll find certain jobs in that area, cybersecurity. Okay, so during the COVID, this job is quite famous also, right? So after DevOps, at least this job also is one of the job. Okay, these guys will not have much of the work also. Usually there will be a products. I think that the leader is um, usually the leader is SIEM leader products. I think Splunk will come into picture. There is a Splunk. Sentinel is there, and Splunk Enterprise. At least most of the places I see is Splunk Enterprise security. So this guy will provide analyze the logs, collect the logs, analyze the logs. Now this is permissible. So that means sudo command, I am executing it, and even I don't have a permission, that will get reported after execution. Okay. But some people still can go ahead and execute sudo command. So those guys are allowed. So that's why they don't block the things. But some commands are there which are even goes for a blocker also. Okay. So that means the moment you try to execute that command, it will be considered as, so a threat that you are trying to do abuse the system. Okay, which is never intended by a normal person to execute, even an administrator user to execute that kind of a command. Okay, so then it will be blocked, by the way. So that is EDR tools. So EDR is basically is endpoint detection and response, by the way. So that includes the server also. And so there are different guys, by the way. So usually the Sentinel one comes quite famous. So let's say this is also today I'm using my company laptop. Let's say here I have Sentinel one. Okay. If something I'm trying to do some mischievous activity, which I'm not supposed to do. Okay. So then immediately there's an incident will get, okay, even I'll get blocked not to perform that activity. And even it will try to report also. Okay. So this is what is, the way that enterprise runs. So that means in our servers also usually we'll have these EDR tools, some tools will be there. Now the sudo command which I try to execute, if I try to fail also, that actually will be recorded in the system. Okay, so for an example, there is a file where log secure and the pipe refer Java. So the Java process is and pipe grepher very narrow down. So everything is getting tracked, by the way. So grepher kill, and what I'm doing is, so you can see this, the sudo Java user is not in sudo words, but he tried to perform a command kill 1741. Kill 1741. All right. So it got reported. So it is like systems track everything, servers will track everything. So that's where we are still fine. But anyhow, overall, just bring back to the whole point, by the way, any command, assume that you log into the company with your user and assume you have a permission, you can execute the things with a sudo. Sudo as a prefix to that command. You should be able to do that. When you don't have a permission, you see in what is errors, you get it. So probably like, you need to get the permission, you'll reach to the people who you need the access, something like that, blah, blah. It's a process thing. Technically, you need access to do the job. And assume 99% of the time you will have access to your systems. Engineering teams will have access. Pretty rare companies only, okay, they'll still avoid. And in such companies, they'll never log in at all, by the way, to the server. Whoever don't want to give the sudo access, in the first place, I'll stop the access. Why do I need to give the access to you? You cannot perform any admin activity. Then what is activity you'll perform by doing that? By creating files and all? That's a server. You will not do that. So purely automation will come into picture. So, zero login is the best practices that we follow. Okay. I mean, even today, like whenever, I work for a consulting firm. So, and when we actually, try to structure something and, propose something, it is going to be zero trust. Okay. Zero trust and zero logins. Absolute zero. So that is where you will, assure see, the moment you get the SSH access, you can tamper anything, by the way. You can tamper many things. Even EDR or SAM also can't catch certain things. Okay, let's not go there. But just the whole point is, If you want to deal with the security, okay, so that is already dealt in the organizations. You assume you have access, you log into the server, and you do the things. And here, EC2 user have access, and that's where I logged in. I'm able to kill some process which is running, by the way. So that is how we are going to uh, deal. All right, clear? Any questions? Too many things I told, but yeah, that is how the security operates. Okay, moving on. So the next one is, so just now you have seen a case that, so you'll be doing, okay, so there'll be a functional user when let's say you take a base system, and in that particular system, you need to add certain functional users, okay, and so that your application can run. So we're going to talk the user management in the context of not who is joining my organization, I need to add the user. Not in that context, actually, I am dealing with the user, by the way, okay, user management. Whereas we're talking about the user management in the context of creating the users for the applications to run, and those applications will never have I mean, applications are never meant as a root user. For security reasons, we don't run as a root user. Okay. So for an example, I want to run a program in Linux as a root user, as a root user for a service. Is it recommended? You simply ask that way, right? So the answer is simply no, you will get it. Okay, so no, running a service as a root user is generally not recommended due to significant risk and stability. So running as a root user, so that means the process is compromised. That essentially means system is compromised. So that's where, okay, so the principle of least privilege will be there. Okay, on this particular principle, we always run the processes with a normal user. And that's where in that particular context, okay, instead, each application should run as a dedicated functional user. It's a common practice in the operating system as well. And there is a lot already, okay, if you have seen yesterday, we're playing with one file. These are all different users, by the way. So why these many users are coming, and why only root user and EC2 user? These are all coming into picture. Those are doing some functional purpose in the operating system. Those doing the functional purpose in the operating system. So that's where we are going to deal with. That's where we are going to deal with uh, adding a user, which is a functional user. So now these functional users, you can see this, they have exclusively mentioned a no login. That means like, if I try to log into a user, so su is a command to switch to the user. Okay. So for an example, I have sudo access, sudo su hyphen mail. If I give mail is a user which is available. If I hit enter, the account is currently not available. So the user is there. Okay. But it is not available to log in. Okay. So that means whatever the functional user you're trying to add, so generally we are going to see a pattern or a, uh, okay, we'll tell that, so will not allow him to log in. Okay, is what I'm telling. Okay. So in that particular context, we'll add the users. So human users are generally part of central single sign-on softwares, like as I mentioned, AD or LDAP. But whereas, okay, humans are just for login, by the way, but whereas the functional users are mostly local in the operating system, those won't generally come to from the central. Those are going to be generally local. And adding a functional user to run the application. So here you have a command called as user add. So since you have admin privileges, because normal user cannot do that, user add. If I give like let's say I wanted to run some time application, okay, or basically time user I add. I mean, some sort of a common project name will be there. So for an example, I'm dealing with a e-commerce project, and like let's say I can go and add commerce, something like that. Okay, so some relative functional name will be there. Randomly, I will not pick it up, but some functional name. Okay, so you add some username. So for an example here, I'm putting like sample as for a sample application. Then it is telling that, hey, I can't do that because I'm not a not user, not root user. So sudo. Okay. So sudo is there, and then sudo user add sample. Okay. So sudo user add sample. Now the user is added. Now ID space sample, you can check whether the user is added or not. And user also will get one user ID to the allocated, and also a group to be allocated. So even the group is created sample by for adding the user sample, because to add a user is a mandatory group you need to add. So that's where the user add command will always go and add a group if you don't specify any group, and will add a user. So it is how we usually do that. So I mean the same user, same group will come into picture, okay, for functional purposes. Okay. So now, but however, I can go here, sudo su hyphen sample will do, but you'll able to log into that particular one. So this is not what we talked about, right? So when we add the user, so usually we're going to add it. Okay, like let's say now demo I'm giving, but however, I will provide a shell. Okay, shell is the interactive session that you're executing, right? This is called shell. This should not be allowed. And that's where slash has been slash no login that you need to provide. Now cat slash etc password, if you see the list of users. So sample is coming as a bash, whereas the demo is coming as a no login. So that whenever you add a user, as a best practice, what do we do is we will set this particular one. So sudo su hyphen demo, you will not be able to uh, log in, but still you can run the processes with that particular user. Now, how do you run that particular process? We'll see that. I mean, later something will come, so you will see that. Service management will come. So that time you will see how, uh, how this user can be used to run a process where you cannot log in. Okay, we'll see that. And just for demonstration purpose, I have some command here. I will just run this. So this will run some well-known programs, the well-known programs like Apache HTTPD or MySQL or Tomcat. Okay. So the well-known softwares, I mean, one is a web server, one is an application server, one is a database. Now you will observe that, so these guys are also going to run the process with a functional user. And as an industry standard, so those are well-known softwares, right? And they look at the security as a very critical thing for them as well. So that's where, okay, you will see that the users which got created into the system to run those particular process are, they'll not use root user to do the things. They'll still use normal user. Okay. And you will observe that they also set up like, no login to those particular users. So just let it run. Might be taking little time. Okay, fine. So now ps-er pipe grep for Apache if I give. You can see this, there's a running Apache process, but is running as an Apache user. Now, if I go into the, okay, so for even Apache, you can go for Tomcat. You can see this is also running as a Tomcat user. And also you can see that MySQL, okay, it is running as a MySQL user. Okay. Now, cat or slash etc password, all these users would have been added to the system. Now you can see this Apache, no login they entered. MySQL, no login they entered. Tomcat, no login they entered. Okay, so that means it's a very much industry standard. When you add a user as a functional user, you need to make sure that user is being added as a no login if you need to add it to run your application. These are the bare minimum bare minimum security considerations that you need to do. Okay, so that is how we do it. So that means we are not actually getting into a OS of, how do you manage the users, adding the groups. Okay, how to manage the users. These are not the aspect I'm getting into. Okay, if that is needed, that will be done by, assume that another person, maybe like, let's say, that's a traditional. I don't think so. It usually comes into your area as well. It's a single sign-on. But in the worst case, also you can still manage in your local. Let's say I'm a very startup, by the way. There's no point of EDR, SIEM, so it's Active Directory. All this doesn't make sense. Okay, if I'm a startup. Okay, so for startup also, if they're recruiting an engineer, assume that is a bare minimum that they expect from us. Okay, if let's say if even it is a startup also. Okay, at least I want to create a functional user. It should not be no login only. That much at least we should do. Forget about EDR, SIM, Active Directories and all. This is the bare minimum thing that you need to handle. Okay, so in that very context, by the way, I'm talking about only the user addition for a functional user purpose. I'm not getting into a traditional user management section of the things, by the way. So I'm a DevOps guy. I'm going to be running an application inside a given server, and I will go and create some users. So this is how I create a user. So user add. When you add a functional user, so you always need to make sure you provide -s slash sbin slash no login in order to do that. Okay, is a better thing that you do. All right, so that's something about the user management. I think so. Yeah. So that's all about what do you have in the user management I wanted to talk about. So we'll add the users. Clear? Any questions? Any questions, confusions?
So no login is going to give the user uh, not the sudo access, right?
Sudo also will not be there for functional users.
Okay. But overall, when you give the no login option, they can't. I think you showed an example. Maybe I was not paying attention. They can't even run the scripts, or they can't even run anything.
They can run and they're running.
Yeah.
MySQL, you can see this MySQL is running the MySQL database. Tomcat is running the
Yeah.
Tomcat process. Apache is running
Hmm.
Apache process. They can run the process.
Oh, only that process, but the Apache user cannot, functional user cannot run the MySQL process.
You can
Is that
run
what you're
if you
saying?
tell to MySQL that I want to use Apache user, right?
Oh,
It's
okay.
not it's not like that, and you'll not do it, right? So the cross process things you will not do it. And it's a program that you installed essentially, and the program only
Right.
taken care of its user addition in the system. Okay, and took the responsibility of adding as a no login, and also it is trying to run that particular run that particular program with that particular user.
But if we are adding, if we best practice no login,
Mm,
what is the function of no
no
login?
login,
In,
no login. Yeah, yeah. And we'll also able to run the process. Okay, even though it is a no login, no one can log in, but however you can still run the process with that user. How to do that?
like,
I mean, going forward, you'll see that.
but they can't log in where to that application.
SU, there won't be you. They won't get any shell. SU hyphen demo. Okay, so let's say sudo SU hyphen demo. If I give where there is a no login, I will say that currently not available. If I try to get onto a Tomcat, okay, to tamper something, I will not be able to log in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi. Raghu. No, I was about to ask the best practice. Anyway, you answered it. Okay.
Oh, all right. So the next is package management. Now, being a being a DevOps guy, okay, you are going to install certain software in the operating system, okay, because I need to run an application or okay, run an application or run a software, okay. So whatever it is, you need to install certain packages, certain libraries, certain dependencies. For example, if I want to run a Java program, I need to install Java. If I need to run a Python program, I need to install Python. Okay. So probably if I need to compile some code on that system, so I require a C compiler to be installed. If it is a C compiler, let's say. Okay. Like this. Okay. Um, we'll be having, I think from yesterday, the compiler is so famous, right? So I hope everyone knows the new stuff. Like, so uh, IBM stock yesterday, okay. Uh, I mean, went a little bit down, right? So because of the Cloud AI, okay, it's just like recovering a little bit. But ideally, okay, I mean, so the AI challenged the legacy systems, and and that's how, so the compilation, because of one compiler which is being brought by uh, Anthropic, by the way. So they bought one compiler for the alt, I mean, for the COBOL thing, which was proprietary so far by IBM, kind of a thing. Okay, so yeah. Now compiler, I want to install some compiler on the system. So that means I need to install a package. What it means, I need to install a package. Now, if you look at the Red Hat distribution operating system, so Red Hat, I mean, I have only an experience, working from Red Hat from version 2 only. That's where I entered the history of version 2. To my knowledge, in version 1, it was not there. Okay. So, but yeah, so in Red Hat version 2 or until version 2 or from 2, maybe you can consider, uh, I just added this first line itself. It is a little bit subjective. I never searched for that information as well, but yeah, it's subjective. But just that alone, history knowledge you consider ignore. But when I started using, at least it was there RPM, and RPM was something that a package manager which is installed by or which is given by Red Hat. In Windows also you have package manager. I think some install shield or something. There are certain guys. Okay, I'm not that great with Windows, but yeah, some guys are there who provide installers, like basically like MSI builds, right? So Linux also, Red Hat Linux. When I say Linux, Red Hat Linux, because other guys has other package managers. Okay, so especially the Red Hat part, they have RPM, Red Hat Package Manager, which is for to install a package. But installing a package and all is a bit difficult job when you go with the direct RPM, because I have some dependencies. Okay, and I have some dependencies, and it will not be able to install dependency. And the package has to be local. Okay, that means I always need to download the package into the server and then do that. And knowing these particular problems, Red Hat has introduced something called as YUM in 4.8, where your two problems, which is your dependency problem and as well as the package need not to be there in local system, has been addressed in YUM. So that means you can have some centralized repository as a package repository. Now your YUM can go and connect to that, and download. When you ask for to install, it will download and clean up the download once, by the way. So that is what it will do. So the YUM came into picture. But in RHEL 8, by the way, so they introduced the next version of YUM, which is called as DNF. From RHEL 8, you have a DNF as a default package manager, which is a next version of YUM. You can understand. So YUM only, YUM only, yellow dog updated modifier, but it is a better version. Okay, so that is how DNF is today's command that we are going to use to run the things. So each tool is built on the limitations of predecessor. That means like RPM has certain problems, YUM is addressed. YUM is having some problems that DNF has addressed. Now, what is the problems that YUM had while DNF is solving it? What is that is, if you actually install a package using YUM, now let's say it installed some 100 dependencies, When I try to remove the package, it will not remove the 100 dependencies. It will remove only one package. Getting the point? So that is where you're going to get it. And also because of another major reason they have to move into here, YUM was completely built on, even though that is not the great reason to consider for that, movement, by the way. Okay. So YUM was built on Python 2.7. Okay. So it was built on Python 2.7. But Python community uh, came up with a end of life completely this one sometime around 2020. They announced sometime in 2014, 2015. They completely, ended it on 2020, right? Now, when the retirement has been announced, and whereas the whole YUM is built on Python 2, so there is no point in, so upgrading the whole code to 3 version or migrate the code to the 3 version. So then what they have done is, okay, they started a forked it and started a new program for this, and that is where it is the major difference. If you look in, the DNF works on Python 3 and YUM works on Python 2. But also there's another problem they addressed for us is more interesting is YUM, you install a package, it installs some 10, 100 dependencies, which is fine. My problem is solved. But when I try to remove, I expect the same remaining packages dependencies also removed, but it won't remove. Okay. So that is one of the major limitations that you had it and which is addressed in DNF. Okay. Now RPM is a package manager, which is an equivalent to your .msi in Windows. Some package manager, you double click next, you do. So something like that you have. So whereas you have some very common RPM commands, which we're not interested, but I had just mentioned here, how do you do that? Okay. So if you're really interested, you can go through that. But anyhow, we will not do this actually. Okay. But sometimes it may be pretty, pretty rare that you get this information. I mean, you may execute some of these commands. And these commands can again be executed from YUM and DNF. So just for a history, for a history purpose, I added RPM some basic commands and YUM some basic commands here. But whereas I will go for DNF measure. So DNF is the one. Okay, the DNF command will tell me so sudo DNF, like let's say list installed. Okay, pretty much English way only it is there. So DNF, to give me the list of installed packages in the system, you hit enter, it will tell you what all the packages which is installed in the system. Okay, so probably you can give pipe word count -l to get how many number of lines was there. Okay, each line represents one package. That means I have 590 different packages which is installed here. Whereas so now starting from YUM, there is a central repositories we talked about, right? So that means the centralized RPM repositories, okay, which is connected by the system to that repository, okay, will have certain more packages. Okay, now those can be referred like what all the available packages. If I want to know that all the packages which are available, okay, available pipe grep port count -l. So it is going to be a long list. There are many packages which are available out there in that system, which is available to install by you. Okay, so that will be usually a huge number. Because as a server, you don't require every package which is there in that repository. So every person have their own purpose of the things. So you can see that some 32,000 packages which is there for you available to install. That is how it is going to be. Or else you simply give DNF list, by the way. So you are going to get both the installed and as well as you can give all, or even without all also you can give. So it's unnecessary. Just simply give DNF list and give word count -l. While you didn't specify I exclusively need installed plus available, you ask for both. Now you get a both combined count, as simple as that. You can combine mostly, you will be entering into the same number. Okay, so 590 plus 32140. So 32,730 and 5 extra lines are there. It was because some heading and all will come. Okay, that was a heading. Some other lines would have come from the and the response, by the way. That's okay. But yeah, fairly you got the nearest number, right? That is how you can list the packages that what all is available. Now you will always have a context what to install. You will not blindly be there, right? So being a DevOps engineer, you have some context on what you are actually installing. You will understand what application you're dealing with, okay, and what you're trying to install. You will have some context, and with that only you will go for an installation. Okay. So later in the projects, you will generally see that understanding. Okay. For now, so it's going to be installed. So for an example, if I want to know about information about any package, so you have something called as info, and you can view this. So it is going to give you the information about that particular package. Okay, so what is this package and things like that. Some package metadata. Whereas if I want to install, so for an example, I wanted to install DNF install a software is there Nginx. Just taking some software. Okay, so DNF install Nginx. So then it is going to go and install the package. Okay, you can see this while installing the package. It is prompting whether you want me to proceed or not. It is asking you. It is asking yes or no. I press no now. Okay, and it will be aborted. Now every time actually asking yes or no, you can be avoided by giving -y option, so that it becomes non-interactive. So then -y. Okay. And the same way, you can remove the package. You can remove the package. It is removing the dependency package also. This is one of the important things which I mentioned. Right? So that is how I can do that. Now also there is an update also, maybe a package update will be there. Okay. So you can just go and give DNF update. I'm not giving -y. It will just stop and show me what all the updates which are available. Okay. So these are all the packages. There are updates are available. Okay. I'm pressing no. Now, whereas you can also go and update only a single package also. Let's say there is a Python 3. I can give this. If I give DNF update Python 3, so only that package will go for an update and its dependencies. Okay. So I'm pressing no again. So update also sometimes you might do. This is how you can do it. So list is a list of installed list of packages which are there, whether it is installed or available from a centralized place, someplace. Okay. And also info means, I mean, that's very common thing. Install means it will install, remove means it will remove. So these are the commands that you have. But however, when you look at it, when I talk about the repositories, a central repository, okay, so then repositories are a storage location of the packages where your DNF and YM commands will refer. And those are all .repo files inside a directory, which is called as this directory. ls of this, you have some files there. Now, if I go and give cat of, let's say, for an example, a EPL repo is there. Okay, if I hit enter. So it is telling that, hey, I am going to get the packages from this particular mirror. So it is telling that it is going to download the packages from here. Okay, so there is a name of the repository is written, and the meta link or base URL will be there. You will be providing that. And enabled equal to 1 GBG. So something like enabled equal to 1 means it is enabled. And these are some security checks, by the way, which is okay. For an example, if I wanted to install some package, MongoDB install as a database, I wanted to install MongoDB. So now if I go to the MongoDB and if I say that I wanted to install, where can I see this? Yeah, here. And I wanted to install a enterprise or community edition, doesn't matter. So self-managed deployments. Yeah. So I wanted to go with the Linux Red Hat package manager. So then what they will do is they will provide one repo file. You need to configure in your system, it is m.repos.de and some file name with .repo having a name, where is the URL you should download from, whether it is enabled or not. And also the packages which are downloading, which is from the right location or not. So there is a cross check. There's a fingerprint check will happening. So they're telling the fingerprint location as well, which is signed for that one. Okay, it's okay, that's fine. So this is how it will be there. So these are some default locations will come into picture. In the organization, okay, in the company where you are working on a corporate enterprise company, if you want to, so here I'm getting it from internet, mirrors.fedora project.org. So some place where I have, where those are, freely available. So that is pointed to there and you are getting it. The organizations, okay, I mean, it is bit, scale. I mean, people will not go and try to download things from the internet because that can have some ransomware which is installed. Okay, so you don't know that. You can't trust every guy which is available as a free, right? So that question mark is always there. So that's where in the organizations, since if you are using Red Hat, usually you end up using Red Hat paid version. Okay, Red Hat paid version. So when you are using a paid version of Red Hat, then what you have is, so they will offer Red Hat Satellite. Okay, Red Hat Satellite is a solution that is used to deal with your uh, content management and lifecycle, especially. So which software? Okay, they provide most of the softwares. General needs will be offered by Red Hat itself. So then, since it is coming from a trusted source, a paid source, companies generally would be okay. So that's how. When you actually get into a paid version, you get it. So, but in our case, we may be entering into a free version, which is from the internet. That's the only difference. But your repo file will be there. Same like MongoDB I have shown. A repo file will be there. A name, I mean, basic syntax. Even this GPG check also is not needed. Let's say if it is already a HTTPS URL, even this is not needed. Okay, the security is already enabled. But yeah, so enabled equal to 1 is enabled, and the URL and the name of the package and some heading in brackets is a syntax, is a repo file. So then it is going to then you're going to get the package from that. So for an example, if I go and give, like, let's say MongoDB sudo.dnf, both are same in this version. Okay. Now if you give yminstall -y MongoDB org, it is telling that I don't have a package. Whereas if I copy this, is some 9 version I'm using. So I'll copy this. So sudo vi /etc m.repos.d mongo.repo. So go to the insert mode. Here you can directly right click and paste. Right click, it will paste automatically. In your putty, it will paste automatically. So I right clicked it. In insert mode, I pasted. Okay. So that is where I have it. Now I'll go and give DNF install MongoDB. I don't want to install, but I just want to show it. DNF install MongoDB. Now, since a new repo file is there, now your DNF command will know that where it has to go and download this package. You added a source, and to that source also it will start searching now and tells that okay, this package can be installed. So it is installing it. All right. So this is how we are going to have it. So overall, these are the DNF commands to list, install, and remove, and also sometimes update. And where these packages are coming from, a centralized place, those are called as yum repositories. Okay, it started at M world by yum world. That's where it is by yum and M repositories. So this is how you need to create a repository. Depends upon the need of the product that you are installing. Some softwares comes from the enterprise world, means it comes from a satellite server. And if it is a third-party package like MongoDB I have shown, they offer their own repositories. You'll be using them and installing in your company. Okay. So yeah, that is all I have. But one more thing is also there. Yeah, let's go through this also for once, and then we'll conclude it for today. Now, starting from DNF, they also offering something called as modules, which was not there in the YM command. What is the offering is, so today's world, a software development is happening in such a way that, now let's say you go to the MongoDB, they're telling that, um, so which version of MongoDB? So you can see this. So they are currently in 8 version, but they still offer 7.0 support. They still offer 7.0 support. So that means what I have to do? I have to, okay, so support both the versions, right? So that means some customers may use 7.0, some customers may use 8.0. So both I need to support. Now, if I am trying to install a single package, the yum repositories having a single version is always a difficult. So that is where what is introduced is modules, by the way. So if you go into the modules, so DNF module list, if I give, so get all the modules which are available. Sudo. So you can see this here. For an example, there's a Maven software. They're offering two versions. MySQL, I think there is only one version. It's fine. Nginx, there are three different versions. So DNF install Nginx. By default, um, it is going to be um, installing which version? It is installing 1.20 version. Okay, the major. Okay, so you are getting 1.20 version. Now, whereas Nginx 1.26 is available. So if I want to, I don't have this requirement. Now I wanted to go with 1.26. So then what you have to do is, so the comments here. So module list, it is showing Nginx. So now first you have to do is module, disable whatever you have default. Okay. And enable what version you want. The module enable, you can see this name and the version. What is the name? Nginx colon. What is the version? 1.26, isn't it? 1.26. 1.26. Enter. So this will enable it. And if you go on now, try to install Nginx. So now what is the version it will show you? 1.26, but not 1.20. So you can choose which version you want it. Now DNF supports it. Now depends upon the vendor. Every vendor may not be supporting this, but yeah, supporting by the vendor. OS has a support that you can allow multiple versions. Okay, so that is how it is. And that's all the things on the package management. So just to summarize the package management. So package management, you will use a DNF command to install, okay, remove, update, these things generally you do. And also you will try to install certain version. If there's a module support from that particular product, you will have this one coming. Okay, so that's all from my side for today. Any questions? Please go ahead. Otherwise, you're good to drop. Yeah.
So, Raghu, my question is with regards to this repo. When you created that MongoDB repo, you created within that directory itself, but you named it only mongo.repo. But when you were installing it or when you were searching for it, you said install Mongo something else actually.
Mm.
But
So
how
here, if
about
you read
what
it,
is it?
so here it has to be .repo file. File name does not matter. It
Correct.
has to be .repo file. Any name.
Right.
Even I can give Raghu.repo also. File name doesn't matter there. It has to end with .repo.
Correct. But
In that, by the way, so the URL will be there. Okay. So the vendor is giving the URL. The URL has to be correct whatever they have to offer, right? So now in this URL, this file is available.
in this URL, this okay. So when you did the sudo install mongodb-org, how did it relate to this repo file? See, where I'm coming from is you did a install -y mongodb-org. So it will go into the repo, and irrespective of the file name, it will go into its content and find out where
That's
mongodb.
all.
Okay,
Simple.
okay.
It will just
That's
find
it.
out in every URL where this package is there. If it is not there, it will tell that there's no package. If it is
Okay.
there, it will try to install. And while installing, it is telling you from where it is installing. Okay. So
Okay.
it is telling you, like, if you can see this Mongo installation, very small. Uh,
So the file name does not matter. The content of that file is
mm,
reviewed, and then it knows which file is where. Okay.
Correct.
Oh, so as a best practice, you would rather keep it to minimum, right? The repos,
Keep it minimum in the sense.
as in I mean, how does it index and everything? Does it, I mean, is that it does not matter, right? Like in the backend, it automatically does that indexing and knows which application or which package is where.
Correct. So that is a valid point. Okay. So now let's say previously some repo showing you some 32,000 packages.
Correct.
Now, going and searching all the 32,000, which is there, it's a time consuming task, no doubt in that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's why they'll come with an index. Always the general solution is index. Now
Okay.
here also when the first time when we actually try to run the MongoDB, if you
Mm-hmm.
have observed, it is trying to download the index.
Oh, okay.
Here, yeah, no, this is the index. Now let me show you. So I'll clean up all. So DNF clean all. So that means I'm just cleaned up everything. So which is 46 files it is telling these are all indexes. Okay.
Okay.
Now if I go and install MongoDB, then you see this. It is trying to
Ah,
download the
okay.
index from every place, which is just only like 20 MB.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So always it will hit the index and understand what all the files which are available there. It's a very
Okay.
common practice on the data. Index is always faster, right? So
Got
yeah,
it.
standard.
I got it. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, anyone? Any other questions?
Yeah, so if I think I pasted that in the chat here. So if you installed Mongo through DNF package manager, and then you try to install it, you through another one, you didn't know that you had that installed, and you try to install it with another package manager. Is there going to be a conflict, or
The OS won't have multiple package managers, right? So it's going to be one package manager of the given operating system. You will not have multiple. But there are multiple, but usually in the server world, you'll not get it. In the desktop world, it makes sense. Okay, maybe MacBook, by the way. So you can have generally for development purposes, there are the different package managers. But in the operating system, the native one only, sorry, the server operating system, you will use the native one only. There is no essential need of going for a third party one. Will not get into
okay,
that scenario generally.
okay? But how about like so you have a script. You've done this through manually. You install this through the native package manager, but then some script or some automation somewhere you're doing, and that's also installing it. You're just gonna get like, okay, it's already installed or something.
No, no, that some will not come into the server world. That some is a worry word, right? Dealing with the live systems. That some
Yeah,
unknown things will not never happen. It's always a context.
yeah. I mean, so I guess the sum. What I mean is like let's say I would GitLab runner, right?
Mm,
And on the runner, I have my software.
mm.
But every time at the sum, when I bring the sum part is that you're doing, so you have a script that is doing a check. So obviously it's going to just say at that time. I guess there's a way for it itself to internally figure out that the package is that that particular software is already installed.
Yes, so
If you
we have
do
an
it,
option, right? So DNF installed will show you whether the package is list installed. It will show you the package is already installed.
okay,
So your script can find out whether the package is already installed.
yeah, it can. Okay.
If you still have a confusion, I think you go back and check with your case, like which scenario it can happen. I can answer better. It's a subjective. So you come with a particular scenario, come back. I can answer you better. But at least in the very straightforward point, the servers will not have that unknown things happening. There can be unknown things happening also. Okay. But I don't consider that as a good engineering and good environment that has been set up. So I'll put it that way rather than so that's my point.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I
Mm.
mean, so I mean, in one case, what you know. I guess in one case, like I had a VM. I mean, obviously that's Windows, right? I had a Windows VM in which I was using Chocolatey uh,
Mm,
package manager,
mm,
and I ran into some conflicts when I was updating that that runner, that VM with the new version of a software. I got like G Cloud SDK or whatever that I was trying to install. I
yeah,
got into some sort of a conflict, and I had to uninstall the SDK completely and reinstall it back again
correct.
with that same package manager.
Yeah. So that is where that system which you dealt with it lacking the engineering practice. It is an operational practice. Okay. After of dealing the systems, by the way. So in engineering practice, there is something called as IAC, infrastructure as a code. Okay. You can call it as a immutable server. Okay. We deal with a proper engineering practice. The IAC, by the way, what do we deal with this is a immutable server. So when you deal with a immutable server, okay, so the thing is, it's basically like, immutable server only, right? So that means you will not do any modifications at any point of time. If I need to do any modification, okay, then what do? I delete that machine and create a new machine with the desired configuration. So that upgrade and all will not come into picture. So it's
Yeah,
a
yeah. So okay, got it. So since then I moved on to we moved on to that. I moved that runner to K8s, and I have a Docker file then with that, and in that Docker file, whenever we update the software, we always pull it up from a base image, and we uh, the script adds the software with the new version that you pass.
correct.
So every time, and yeah, okay.
Yes. So the immutability is the answer for that. And the immutability becomes so famous when the containers came into the picture. Okay. Before then, as an engineering practice, immutability does exist. Okay. But however, it became so famous with the container world. Yeah. Approach is the solution here. So yeah,
Yeah,
my point
yeah.
was
Thank you.
approach. Any other questions? Okay. All right. So then let's meet in tomorrow's session and we'll complete the remaining part of our Linux. Okay. Bye. Good day.